We all love hearing about how I screwed up. Hi, my name is Chloe. I live in a school bus with my dog Mochi, and I'm gonna tell you all of the ways, or at least, the most dramatic ways that I messed up when building my bus. One of the most noticeable things, I think, is the bowing of my cabinet doors. The way I constructed them was objectively incorrect. I made these doors out of separate planks of wood, and I thought that one piece of 1/4-inch plywood on the back would keep it uniform, square, plumb, the whole nine, and it was not the case. That is something that I can fix in the future and plan to fix in the future, but later in the video I'm going to tell you a few things that you have to do right the first time. A mistake that is technically fixable, but will cause lots of headaches in the process, which is why I haven't fixed it yet, is that I chose to paint my roof with matte paint. I just thought it would look cool. I didn't think that it was gonna be super easy to stain and super difficult to wash. And I don't know, I just saw it in the aisle. I was like, oh, Rust-Oleum white. Perfect, that's what I need. And that was it. That was the end of my thought. I bought it home, and I painted the roof. One day, maybe I will repaint it, but like every other project in this school bus, it was very, very difficult to paint it the first time, and I don't really want to do it again. A lot of the mistakes I made are just because I flat out didn't know any better. I knew absolutely nothing when I started this build, and I know a little bit more now. It's purely aesthetic, doesn't really hinder the function of the bus. Same with using silicone instead of a lap sealant. I didn't learn about lap sealant until probably a year into living in this school bus, and the guy who did maintenance on my air conditioner actually told me about it. It is a paintable leak proofer. So it comes out of a gun like caulk and works like silicone, but is made out of a different material so that you can paint over it. So if you ever come up close to my bus and look at the seams on the windows, you can see where I had to silicone because a lot of my windows were leaky and then couldn't get the paint color to adhere, so you can actually still see a little bit of yellow underneath. A little bit. The next mistake is not aesthetic. So the fuel pump that brings the diesel from my tank into my heater is behind my shiplap walls. I would have to completely destroy them in order to take them off. And that just really takes down the maintenance ability of my heater. I actually had an issue with my heater this winter and was praying that it wasn't the pump because I cannot get to it. I could maybe take out a tail light and get to it that way. I did this in order to reduce the sound that it would make. I really should have put it outside of the bus entirely, underneath the bus. The sound doesn't bother me as much as you might think. What really worries me is if I ever have to do maintenance on it, it's going to be a nightmare. I made such a myriad of mistakes in the electrical wiring of this bus that it should have its own segment. If there's a mistake that you can make in relation to electrical wiring, I have probably made it. Luckily, I was able to remedy a lot of the mistakes that I was making in my electrical wiring, but arguably the biggest mistake of all time was miscalculating my power draw. That is my own big fat glaring mistake that I can't fix because I would have to put more solar panels on the roof, which means I would have to drill into the roof, which means I have to remove the ceiling. That's not happening. So that was just poor planning on my part, and if I could do it all over again, I absolutely would. I would probably re-budget my money to allow me to have more solar panels, auxiliary batteries, a bigger system than I thought I needed, just for the peace of mind. If you have any advice for accepting mistakes, especially when you have to live in the face of them every single day, I'm sure me and many other people would love to hear about it. Because when you're living in the space that you built yourself and you analyze it to the degree that I know I do, it's really hard not to think about it and not to wish that you had done something differently. The moral of the story is that you can never do too much research on this lifestyle if you're planning to live this way, if you're planning a build. If you would like to continue your research with me as your guide, you can watch this video that I made about the regrets that I have about my bust build, which are different than mistakes, I think, personally, on an emotional level. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next week.